Folks, welcome back to an updated reading on MrBeast. His government name is Jimmy, and I'm going to call him, or his government name is James, but I'm going to call him Jimmy because that's what people know him as, okay? As far as I know, that's his preferred name. I've already read about Jimmy. I read about him on, in early 2023, I think it was. I'll link it down below, and I'll also have like an information card somewhere up there if you want to go see it. I rewatched it before I sat down and started recording this, and in that particular video I predicted that Pluto was going to have a powerful, specifically the planet, the astrological understanding of it, was going to have an effect on Jimmy and how he interacted with his friends in the MrBeast kind of empire, okay? So let's continue to pull cards out. Okay, yep, I see that this is going through a transformation, and there may be something going on in where his Pluto transits in his birth chart that's important. This is almost as if it's destined to have changed. It's destined to change. It's like his life experiences teach him that all that glitters is not gold, and that's maybe kind of ironic given how much money he has. This might be kind of where he learns to decide who's a real friend and who isn't. Because he is so wealthy, he's going to attract all kinds of people who aren't actually good for him. And he's going to learn how to create a filter over time. And it's like MrBeast might be a little bit of a cover for how maybe people take it. Like, he wants to protect himself from the people that take advantage of him, being like super popular looking, like super generous, philanthropic, all that kind of good stuff, is a way for him to create a shell around himself. It's like his inner child is kind of out of balance. Like, he needs to have a stronger relationship between his inner child and his inner adult. That's what's coming true right now because Pluto is currently transiting through Aquarius. It began its transit in Aquarius earlier this year, and Pluto in Aquarius is an upending, rebellious, tables turning, opposites kind of extremes kind of energy. It's definitely the kind of thing that is focused on humanitarian efforts because Aquarius is about the humanitarian aspect and about equalizing things when things have gotten out of balance. And this is absolutely a situation where a few people have a tremendous power over a great large number of people, okay? And Pluto in Aquarius is going to affect that. I saw that last year, and I saw that the universe was going to have a lesson coming for him when it came to how Jimmy interacts with his friends, especially when it comes to what's very valuable to him, okay? So, I am using the Light Seers Tarot to read at least one question, and I am using the 7th Sphere Lenormand from Labyrinthos to read at least one question. I don't know what Spirit's going to pick. We're just going to roll with it. I have 3 questions for Spirit and for my cards today. The first one is, what does the universe really want to say to Jimmy right now? Okay, I've already laid the Light Seers Tarot out in a Celtic cross formation. Let's get into it. So I have right here the world as the central theme. It's over. It's a state of transition. This is the end of an era. It's time to close things out. And as you can see, she is dancing through a hoop in the shape of a 0. Of course, a hoop is going to be shaped like a 0, right? The point is, she is going to be going back to the energy of the Fool and going to be starting a new era. This is what the universe is telling Jimmy to do. Start over. Call this stage. What's going wrong? What's going wrong? Yes, what's being exposed as wrong right now. Call all of this the end of an era. Don't try to shove things forward because it's just going to look forward. End things now. as your Mr. Beast mask. Put them to the side, and it's time to start over. It's telling Jimmy right with this particular card to wrap things up, to close things out, to say goodbye to stuff, to say goodbye to people as well, especially to the people who have led him astray, because he is easily led astray. He has a childlike energy about him that talks to me about a lack of emotional and spiritual maturity. And we'll talk about the spiritual stuff here in just a second. This is his challenging card. The upright board, the top part of the card is pointing towards the past. It is formed like this on my particular spread. And that talks to me about him needing to be a deeply strong individual right now and to take the L's. Take all the L's, because this is ultimately his responsibility. He should have been more mature, and everything should have been much more professionally handled than it was, from beginning to end. This got way out of hand from an early stage, and he was never of the maturity to have handled it at all. And the universe is saying, you need to be strong right now, accept responsibility for what has happened here, because this is still your fault. Interesting also, it's a beast. You see that? I know it's in the shape of a lion, but it's a beast. It's literally saying right now, close out your Mr. Beast persona. That's what the universe really wants to say to Jimmy right now. Close it out. Say goodbye. Wind it down. Sunset it. And let it go. This isn't Jimmy's past. This is the King of Pentacles, a very wealthy person. And I said in that previous video that Jimmy was always going to be comfortable in life. I did say that I got like trust fund energy from him. I definitely feel like Mom is going to be taking care, at least financially, of Jimmy for the rest of his life. And she would have, regardless of whether he ever touched any social media platform or not. That was always going to be in the works for him. He was always going to be well taken care of. But I need to draw your attention to how this was in the past, and this is not in the present, okay? He's being asked to close his persona out as Mr. Beast in the present and start something new. This is here in this conscious position. The universe wants him to consciously think about the new ways that he can grow, new ways of taking action, new ways of motivating himself. But this is also a spiritual energy kind of card. They're asking him to take on a new spiritual journey. This is his conscious and his subconscious card here together. They're asking, this is a come to Jesus moment, okay? They're asking him, turn to your deity. I think he's a Christian, or I remember saying in that previous video that he went to a Christian high school, okay? He's wealthy. His family's wealthy. He was never going to be in a bad place, okay? No matter what he might tell you, okay? His parents, at least his mom did the hard work. I don't know about his dad as much. Yeah, okay? He needs to take on a new spiritual path. He needs to take his faith much more seriously. This is asking him to deepen his faith quickly. You need to get in touch with the universe right now. But I also need to point out that the star is associated with Aquarius. Again, I'm coming back to that Pluto in Aquarius feeling that I got the Pluto card from my Claves Astrologica deck from Labyrinthos. Pluto literally came up as the central theme card, right? Well, here's the stand-in for Aquarius right here. I believe the star is for Aquarius, right? Because you've got the maid pouring the water onto the earth and into the little pond next to her. So that's kind of, this is meant to be a transformative effect. The universe got tired of him pursuing money, and not genuinely pursuing his faith while claiming to be a religious, faith-based kind of person. It rings utterly false to the people who are real about their faith many times, and it absolutely rings 100% false to the universe. This is a come to Jesus moment. End your Mr. Beast persona. Take on a new spiritual path. Grow into your best and your highest good. Leave behind this energy of I'm the king of money, right? Leave behind it all. Leave it behind. This is in the future. The universe wants Jimmy in the future, in the near future, by the way, to leave everything behind as MrBeast. Delete the channel even. That would be an extreme kind of energy, but then again, this particular card, the star, comes after the tower. The tower is the end, is another way to indicate the end of an era, but it's a violent, a sudden, a crazy, painful end of an era. With the world, it is the end of an era, but it's more of a, okay, it's actually the end and time to start over a new life. With the tower, that's you need healing after that. You need to recover. That was a traumatic way to end things, okay? But that's what's going on here with the star. It kind of gives that sense of this is deeply traumatic, and so something that's deeply traumatic needs something that's deeply healing, right? He needs a new spiritual path, and the best way to do that is to leave everything behind and possibly take the extreme effort of indicating how willing he is to take the spiritual path by deleting the channel, getting rid of the videos. Because the universe believes that a lot of damage was done with these particular videos, masquerading as charity, but really meant to get his bag. The universe does not like it when acts of charity are thinly veiled as ways to enrich Jimmy and his friends. Universe hated it and is asking him to have this come to Jesus moment. I'm sorry if I'm repeating myself, but this is like earthquake creating for him. I kind of got the feeling that he's in a dead flat panic. Right before I started this reading, I started trying to tap into his energy. He doesn't know where the hits are going to come from next, and he's deeply afraid of what people are going to say because he knows that what was going on behind the scenes was wrong. He knows, that what he did to get this bag, to be this entity, he knows what he did was wrong. It was a skyrocketing thing up to the past, a skyrocketing trip up to the top is what I should have said. But he made a Faustian kind of deal to make this happen. He made a deal, in a sense, with the devil. Even though the devil isn't in this particular spread, in a sense, he made a deal with the devil in order to get to the top the way he did, as fast as he did, through dishonest means. Numerous times, over and over and over, with hiring people, with how he's treated co-workers, contestants, if you want to call that, competitors, whatever you want to call that. He knows that he's done wrong here. And the universe is saying the best thing you could do right now is take all the L's, walk down a spiritual path and leave everything behind to show how deeply sorry you are. Grow the fuck up, kid, is what they're saying. This is his advice, position. Make a choice. Use your intuition. This is heavily water-based. In the original Rider-Waite-Smith card, there's a massive lake behind this particular figure who's holding up two swords, trying to decide how they're going to make a choice. The universe wants Jimmy to use this Aquarian water energy. It's air energy, but there's some water energy flowing through it as well. Use his intuition. Use his emotional maturity. It seems like it's kind of a not well-used muscle, his emotional aspect. They're saying you need to use your sacred intuition, your compassion, your love to genuinely guide you away from your channel, MrBeast, from the mask that you created, from the harm that you created. Charity, the universe is saying that charity, with all this shadiness, hiding, willing to take advantage of people, isn't charity at all. It just carries the mask of charity. They're saying you need to think a different way. After you walk away, after you choose to walk away from something that, let's be honest, he's put a great deal of emotional energy in this particular channel, in this particular adventure. But they're saying you need to think a different way. You need to talk a different way. You need to start growing up, kid. Because this is the Page of Swords energy. They have the potential to grow into the King of Swords. But this is saying this needs to be so transformative that you can't think the old way that you used to. You can't speak with people, for instance, the same way that you used to. This is going to be completely recreating himself and not just destroying the MrBeast persona the way the universe wants it destroyed. They're calling it cursed because of the harm that it's done. Extremely strong words, but the universe is saying that they're deserved. The current environment is look at him holding on to that bag. He is protecting his money. Right now, he's protecting his money. Literally, actually, that's what's going on here. Okay? Protecting his money. Excuse me while I plug in my computer. He's still in this mindset. How do I protect this bag? How do I protect this bag? He is so money motivated. He is so algorithm results motivated, centered, that this hasn't sunk in yet. The universe is saying, let it sink in, starting now. Take the L's, starting now. Think about how you can wind MrBeast, the channel, the persona, down now. They're upset with him. They're very upset with him is what I'm getting. Yahweh, Jimmy's God, if that is indeed who Jimmy worships, is not at all pleased with Jimmy in the slightest. This is the Eight of Wands. This appears in his hopes and his fears. He is terrified of how fast things are moving. He is terrified of this. Things are happening. Like I said earlier, he doesn't know where the next hit is going to come from, but he knows that there's more. Even people that he thought were allies have been accidentally telling on themselves and on him. Again, this Aquarian energy is of sword energy, air, thinking, speaking. So it's going, people are going to start talking intentionally or unintentionally, and it's going to be rough for Jimmy. So understandably, he's on edge. He's on edge. The universe is not happy with him. The universe says it's time for karma to take place. It's going to be painful. It's going to be on a very high stage. He has a very tall platform. He has a long way to fall, and it will be painful. Tower moment is incoming. There's a big emotional reveal possibly coming. There will be. It's going to hurt him privately, and it's going to make him want to crawl into a hole. Hide in a closet, not look at people, not even look at his girlfriend. It's going to be a traumatizing tower moment for him. It will arrive, most likely. Please understand that I am a fallible human being and that I am listening to spirit and I'm interpreting what they say, okay? There is a painful karmic moment coming that will be deeply emotional, will knock him off his feet, his tower will fall, and he will have no choice but to watch his empire crumble because the universe wants this destroyed. Yahweh doesn't like this either, what he's built. Not at all. Not in the slightest. Do y'all remember that, and please excuse me if, I'm rusty on this. There was a point where Jesus went into a temple where they were selling a whole bunch of stuff, and Jesus got so upset and started destroying stuff and saying, you're turning a place of worship into basically a marketplace, right? It was about the motivation of turning that into a marketplace. Everybody's going to be at the place of worship, so why not turn it into a marketplace? It's kind of that same kind of thing. It's interesting. It's like Jesus and Yahweh are telling Jimmy, we've already dealt with this, kiddo. Why are you repeating lessons that should have been learned, that you should have been learned? You're claiming to be this Christian, so why aren't you behaving like this? This is a very tall platform, and it's kind of giving that sense of whipping, like spanking, that kind of thing. Like, this is going to be a rough fall from grace for Jimmy. It's going to feel very personal. For whatever reason, I'm getting like his eyes, like they have always seemed kind of like dead-ish to me, like there's not much going on. Kind of lifeless looking eyes. I don't know why those are like, he's always gonna be crying. Alone in a closet in his room, he's gonna be telling people, don't come. Might cry around mom. He won't. He'll struggle to do that. Only when things get like seriously bad might he break down in front of like trusted family members. Okay. Let me close out this particular question and I'll move on to the next question. So I am using the 7th Sphere Lenormand from Labyrinthos to answer my second question, which is, what does the universe want to say to Jimmy about Jake Weddle? I have laid the cards in a 3x3 spread called a portrait spread, and in the center of this portrait spread I have cross. Again, another spiritual connection, but also speaks to us about a heavy cross to carry, a burden to bear. What is your burden, Jimmy? It will always be to remember this for a long time to come. This is Jake Weddle's story now. Basically, this is going to continue to be a burden on Jimmy for the rest of his life, quite possibly. Because to understand with the genuinely deep knowledge that you physically tortured a person to the point where they are still traumatized years later, this is not something that he's ever going to be able to forget. Jimmy made this particular choice in a childish fit of rage because he felt like Jake outshone him, had better character. I saw someone in a comment section say that they feel like Jimmy lashed out at Jake in this particular way because Jimmy wanted to cut Jake down. Cut him down to size because Jimmy felt threatened by how charismatic Jake was and is. Jake is genuinely entertaining. Jake is genuinely an attractant to people around him. And Jake doesn't need money to accomplish that. Jimmy does. People stick around Jimmy because he has a lot of money. If Jimmy was dirt poor, if Jimmy had grown up in Jake's position, I don't know how many people would want to stick around someone like Jimmy. Quite possibly. Well, hopefully Jimmy would be of a stronger character in that scenario, but that's not what we have here. This is going to be a burden that Jimmy gets to carry for the rest of his life, that he will carry, even if he apologizes. This is something that he's going to carry in his heart for a long time, and that's what the universe wants Jimmy to know right here. You're not going to be able to get away from this. Jake is going to talk repeatedly over years. This is Jake's story now. He's going to write his story down. He's going to talk about it in his stand-up comic bits. He's going to find ways to incorporate it into his life, into his life's story. And you're just going to have to understand that it's going to dominate you at some point in the future. This is a bear that bosses the situation around. This also has mama bear kind of energy, but also like a parental figure acting in deep protective kind of state. In a deeply protective kind of state. I wonder in some ways if people aren't going to continue to mature when it comes to how they thought about MrBeast at one point. Oh, he's such a good guy. Look at all this wonderful charity stuff that he does, right? People are going to mature. They're going to look back at what Jimmy chose to do to Jake. And even if Jimmy has made the situation whole, he can't. Never fully. He can try, but he can't give mental health back. He can't take the situation. He can't undo the past, even if he is genuinely sorry. And I don't feel like he's sorry that it got exposed. He's sorry that he got caught. He's embarrassed that he got caught, but he feels deeply resentful still towards Jake, is what I'm getting. That is what's going on in the current reality, right? The current reality is that this is going to continue to be a burden on Jimmy, quite possibly for the rest of his life. Even if people forget, Jimmy will never. A blessing and a curse from the universe. If Jimmy wants to turn it into a lesson, then he can be utterly honest with people and say exactly what he was thinking. And be deeply apologetic and say that he understands that he possibly can never be forgiven for this. Because like Jake said in his the Dog Pack 404 video, that we don't even do this to terrorists, right? If he wants to show how much he's grown, he's going to have to genuinely talk about what he meant to do, what his thoughts were at the time, why it was wrong, how sorry he is, how he understands that forgiveness is not possible because the victim might not never be able to be made whole. That's a PTSD kind of inducing event. This is a traumatizing event. And Jimmy gets to live with that for the rest of his life. In his conscious position, above the reality, we've got house first, left to right, house, birds, and animus. This has been a point of non-stop discussion, pointless drama, circleless drama inside the house of MrBeast. They've not been able to stop talking about this. They're saying that Jake squealed. He wasn't supposed to say this shit. And this is him, MrBeast. Jimmy appears in his own reading in these particular circumstances. What does the universe want Jimmy to know genuinely about what he did to Jake? He's not going to be able to get away from the chatter, from the discussion. Like, this is what's going on behind closed doors. They're tearing each other up over this. You did this. You did that. This was your fault. Why did you do this? Why did you say it should go on for more time, for instance? He's blaming other people inside his house, but isn't looking at how he was responsible. It's a deeply childish, knee-jerk kind of reaction to this. Everyone's embarrassed that they got caught, but it felt good at the time to do to Jake, is what I'm getting from this. This house that MrBeast built is going to end. I'm looking at a diagonal that points forward into the future. This is something that he carefully built over years, and granted, it took it was still a fast skyrocketing point to fame, journey to fame, I should say, but it still took some years. This is all going to collapse, and suddenly. I said earlier about a tower moment, and I'm sticking to that here. Because this is think about how a scythe suddenly cuts a crop or cuts grass, right? You can look up a YouTube video if you want to see a demonstration of how a scythe used to work for at least my ancestors, okay? But it's just a sudden chop. All this stuff that he worked on is just going to suddenly end, and Jimmy's just not, he's not going to be able to get away from the mess. All of this rubble is going to collapse in on his own head. The house that he built is going to collapse in on him. Being in public is going to be a burden for him. his social circles, this is the, or what I should say is, this is the diagonal that points from the past into the future. His social circles fucked him up in the past, and that's going to influence how his future changes in the future. He's inextricably chained to what his friends encouraged him to do and what he just went along with, because he wasn't of the emotional maturity to say, that doesn't sound good, let's not do that. He never got there. Okay? I'm kind of jumping around all over the place, but basically I'm seeing that this is all going to crumble anyways. Whether I said in the initial question that he needs to close out the channel, but here's the thing. This particular spread is saying, if he doesn't close it out, the universe is going to close it out for him. They don't want this channel, they don't want this mask as MrBeast to stand any longer. They want it to die out as quickly as possible. They want it to fade from existence. But they want Jimmy to carry around this knowledge, these experiences, these lessons for the rest of his life. And there might be some karmic material that he needs to work out in the next few lifetimes as well, at least the next lifetime. Okay? He cannot enter that state of the unknowable, of not needing to be reincarnated anymore. He's still learning his lessons here on Earth. He's foolish. And he has so many lessons and so much karmic debt there's a lot going on with this particular soul. He's a young soul, I'm kind of getting. Like, this is like his third, his fourth, his fifth iteration being born. It's kind of interesting. Not an old soul at all. Okay, interesting. Let's talk about what's going on a subconscious level. By the way, this is my horizontal level of my 3x3 Lenormand spread, okay? So, social secrets coming to a sudden end, literally. What I like about Lenormand is you can read it like a sentence, literally. Private social secrets that had been repeating. Here's the thing. There are a bunch of things that this particular group did wrong that they did repeatedly wrong. If they did it in front of the cameras, there were like dozens of times more that they did that same thing that was genuinely fucked up. Possibly not in Jake's case. They might have experimented on other people, for instance. They might have done similarly torturous things on other people. But I see that being here in the past, that they've repeatedly made mistakes. Now we're moving on to the vertical columns in my 3x3. This is what's going on in the past. Stacked like this. This particular way too much of a boys club, way too much of a frat house, repeatedly did stuff. They're saying they've earned this reputation. This is 100% an earned reputation. Oh my God, no, people need to step back. No, my next question is about how parents and children how the universe would like parents and children to respond to this scenario, okay? This was a well-established pattern of behavior. This was mob mentality at its absolute worst. People got hurt. People got traumatized for life. And this is not something that Jimmy should just forget about. And the universe is not going to let him. Okay? By the way, so that was the past vertical column. In the present vertical column, all his secrets are being exposed. Bottom, middle, and top. All his secrets are being exposed. Everyone's talking about it. And this is a huge weight on his shoulders. He doesn't know where the next blow is going to come from. Everything is moving so fast. He was afraid of things moving fast, and they just are. It feels like every day something else is coming out. More people are falling away from him. There's the real risk. I'm wondering if that Amazon project, if the universe isn't going to find a way to shut it down. If he doesn't wind it down, okay? There's a lot of money that he's going to lose. It's like he's going to lose everything that he got while he was in his MrBeast persona. In his, social media persona. He's going to be, severely cut down. Like, his family's going to be kind of, not totally reduced, but they're going to go through some dire financial straits at some point in the future because of this. And this is the future column. The last one. This is how it appears. Again, we've got the bear, a beast. And we're getting in the future, whether he does it willingly or whether the universe does it for him, the MrBeast persona is going to just suddenly end, drop out of existence. Videos deleted, gone. Some will be downloaded by some deep fans, but other than that, the universe called this a blight on the philanthropic charity kind of faith. It's huge. It's deeply damaging. And they're not going to let it stand. They're going to sweep it away. Pluto and Aquarius is no fucking joke. I've already talked about Pluto and Aquarius on this channel. Feel free to check that out. I'll link it down below, and I'll also put a information card up top, okay? I've already talked about how it's going to hit the United States and how it's going to hit Canada, okay? There's a lot going on right now behind the scenes. Make no mistake. He's in a dead flat panic. They can't stop tearing at each other's throats right now. It's a very cutthroat place to be. It's destructive, it's oppressive, and it's traumatic to the genuinely good people who got left behind, who didn't leave in time to avoid this tower fall. Okay? Not yet. The severe stuff that needs to come out is about, I'm getting like Dog Pack 404. I'm getting that name once again. I wonder if he isn't going to say something that kind of doesn't become a nail in the coffin. Okay? We'll move on to my next and my final question. I think based on what I've said so far, what the universe, what Spirit has given us so far, that I think it's a pretty cut and dried answer about what the universe wants children and their parents to know about Jimmy Donaldson. Okay? In any case, I'm going to clean up, and I'll come back and answer that question. So, Spirit wanted the 7th Sphere Lenormand cards to answer this particular question. I've got Sun from left to right. Sun, Coffin, Ship, Bouquet, and Bear. The central theme being ship, and that's about a journey. Kids struggle with, from what I understand, don't have any of my own, okay? But from what I understand, gradually talking to your children about big stuff like this is something that needs to take place here. But they're definitely saying on either side of the ship, we've got Bouquet and Coffin, it's to allow this to end, to help your children learn how to allow this era of their lives to end. There are better, higher quality content creators out there who do genuinely good things, and it might take a while for you and your family to find another content creator who's as fun, who's as interesting, and doesn't hurt themselves, their employees, who isn't torturing people for views. There's better ways to go around this, and I'm so sorry that children, that maybe your children, got so attached to an awful person. It's the awful person's fault. Nobody forced Jimmy to be this kind of person. These were all choices, small choices at first, that Jimmy made. And he will bear responsibility for this. That doesn't make this hurt any less. But I'm getting, yes, definitely wind down, and also have a conversation with your kids about parasocial relationships and feeling like you know a person when in reality you don't. We don't when it's across a social media platform, for instance. Those are highly edited videos, professionally edited videos meant to give a particular view, what they want you, the audience, to see. that would be kind of a difficult conversation to have, I can see. But it's one that you would need to have nonetheless. I don't feel like the human race has adapted properly to the internet, and most especially not to parasocial connections. If you think about our ancestors, the celebrities of the village would have been like the one who had the most sheep, or the one who had the most chickens, or who was the best hunter, or who had the most crops, or whoever. Those would have been the celebrities of the old world. You would have had some, connection with them if you were all forced to live together in the village. We don't have that as humans. But there's still that primitive lizard brain that says, oh, you're somebody to be admired, right? When you see those kinds of circumstances. I don't think our brains have completely properly adapted to having VIPs, period. I mean, I know that we've had movie stars now for, well over 100 years. What I'm saying is I don't think our brains have caught up to even that, let alone to what the internet is providing to us. What the universe is providing to us through the internet. A challenge, right? They're saying to have a conversation. So here we have Sun, we have Bear, we have, you need to talk about what's being exposed here. You need to talk about what made him successful. You need to talk about what he buried from the public is part of why he was successful. He hid stuff. I think it's even young kids can understand if you hide bad stuff from people, they think that you're a good person when you show them the good stuff that you do. That's a really easy thing to explain, is that MrBeast was doing really bad things behind the scenes. He was taking, this lands on the House of the Clover, by the way. He was taking risks with people's lives. And that's something that we need to discuss. It just is, okay? So with Ship, Bouquet, and with Bear, you can talk about how peer pressure is very powerful, and how even as adults, grown-ups struggle with peer pressure. And if you don't learn how to resist peer pressure and understand when there's good peer pressure and bad peer pressure, right? That's another conversation you can have, is help your children decide what the difference between good and bad peer pressure is. You need to have that conversation with them, but say that this happened because Jimmy gave in to peer pressure and his friends told him to do stuff and he said yes. You can tell your kids that Jimmy made these choices to listen to his friends. He didn't have to. He also chose the friends that he did. He chose to surround himself with these people, and that when bad people do bad things because of their friends, it doesn't remove responsibility from the person who listened to their friends. There's a lot of conversation that you can have with your kids, but it's a long-term conversation to have. This is one that you should have gradually, is what the universe is saying, and with a whole lot of sensitivity, because a lot of kids got emotionally attached because these were well made for at least kids. Kids are inexperienced with the world, and they were made to attract them. Okay? That's all I got for you. If your family is kind of going through a painful moment because of what MrBeast did, I'm so sorry. I am horribly sorry to Jake Weddle and for what he went through. How horrific. And I pray that he gets every bit of healing that he could ever possibly want, let alone need. I hope that Jimmy becomes a better person because of this. I hope that he chooses to grow up genuinely. I hope that he chooses to grow into his best and his highest good. I hope that he chooses to use how he fucked up as MrBeast and use that as a way to teach people how not to be, how not to do what he did, how not to be what he was. I don't know that he will. I feel like right now everything's just very tumultuous, that he's humiliated, he's embarrassed, and he's terrified about what's going to come next. He wants things to slow down, and they're not going to, because the universe wants this to be over quickly, now, yesterday. And that's all from me. Thank you for watching to this point. Take care.